We're going to talk about that. Camp is one of those amazing weekends or weeks. It's a whole week. It's a Monday through a Saturday. You don't want to miss out on camp. Really excited about camp. And we do a lot of games at camp, and I pick up games here and there. And Tyler is always researching new games, trying to do some new things. But I got a game tonight that is going to illustrate the all-in. And if I could have our male leaders come on up there. All of these guys know that they're doing something that is being all-in. Last week, if you were not here, you can go back and watch the video on YouTube. But for those who wanted to be all-in, they had to eat a random substance of food. Some got a piece of candy, like Drew Hoffman got candy. It was great, right? Ryan got baby food. You're a 2-weeker right here. Dana got a clove of garlic. Yeah. It was rancid. She tried to give me a kiss in bed, and I was like, nope, and I turned over. And it was, yeah. I'm just saying. Yeah. So, like, she could have killed a vampire so it was great. Just saying all in, like, no matter what's going to come up. So these guys, I texted them today and I said, hey, are you all in on the game tonight? And all of them said yes, and then David said, as long as Thomas and Theo do it when they get back. So that's what's going to happen. But tonight, we're going to play a game. It's my version of a game that I've seen online and countless places. Danny, can you grab that side of the table? Nice and careful. I made this today. This is a game we're gonna have to squeeze in for this. Here we go. All right, so this game is called Mousetrap Roulette. So, none of them are set right now. But here's what's going to happen. Dana and Kristen, if you can come help, they are going to set 4 mousetraps in here. We're going to turn around so we can't see which ones, and then we will all pick a slot, not looking. No. I will take whatever's left. No. We can't see anything. We can't see. Yeah. So you might want to go with whichever you don't want to do the picking hand for the guitar. Yeah, whichever one. All right. So I told them, I asked them, are you all in? And they said yes. So we are going to decide if we are all in or not by playing this game. All right, so we're going to turn around.
You did tell them that it was going to hurt.
I said it was going to hurt a little bit. All right, so we're going to turn around. We're not going to pay attention. We're not going to look at anything. You guys want to sing a song? Come and knock on our door. We're waiting for you. Everything is is coming to. Are we ready? Oh, okay. I got nothing. I got nothing. I got another TV. Okay. Does someone know how to set mousetraps? No. Empty. There we go. All right. So. All right. We're doing the first prince. Is that where it starts? Yeah, here we go. In West Philadelphia, born and raised on the playground is where I spend most of my days. Chilling out, nice and relaxing, all cool. Out shooting some people all outside of school with a couple of guys. They were up to no good. Started making trouble in my neighborhood. I got one little fight, and mom guys can't take me with you. I'm a little lad. I whispered Kevin when it came near the license plate said Preston had a dice in the mirror. You think I can say this guy was wet, but don't forget to go home to Bel-Air. I pulled up to the house about 7 or 8. I yelled to the cab, go home, stay later. Look at my kingdom, I was finally there. And sitting on my throne as the Prince of Bel-Air. There we go. Are you ready? Oh, come on. All right, so the reason we're doing this, I know all these guys are all in. They've been in student ministry long enough. We've done lots of stuff. But we're going to prove, like, we're all in. Wow. You guys are not. Oh, my. Next week, lady leaders are playing Mousetrap for Love. What's in the box? All right. Are we ready? Okay. All right. We're good. Okay, we're not good. Okay. Oh my goodness. Oh my. Yeah. All right, here we go. So, you guys pick your hole first. We gotta stand sideways. Don't look. Pick your hole. All right. Huh? Okay. Don't look. Just pick one, and I'll go to whatever's left. And then we yeah. No, you gotta go fingers. You gotta go fingers. All right, here we go.
Hey, watch out.
All right, we're gonna count. 1, 2, 3. We'll all go down at the same time.
Scoot now.
1, 2, 3. All go down at the same time. There's 6. 6 holes, 6 bucks. There we go. We got it. All right, so who's taking what? There's one here. Am I taking the hit? What are you doing, Justin? No one's looking. All right, here we go. You guys, if you go up to your wrist, that's about like the crease of the wrist. 1, 2, 3. Yes! Wow, this is so good. Who got it? Ryan broke his. Stick your finger there. Who thinks Ryan has to take it? Alright, so. Oh, I forgot to do a disclaimer. Don't do this at home. I forgot that. Alright, don't do this at home. So why do this? Alright. We did gross food last week. Good food, gross food. We did mouse traps this week. Why do this? Why? We should go back. Yeah. Here's why. We talked about last week being all in, right? We talked about in everything we do, giving all to God, right? In our life, there is no partial Christianity. There is no, I'm going to be a Christian on these days and I'm not going to be a Christian on these days. When God calls us to do something, we are called to do it wholeheartedly, right? Now, these guys said yes this morning and they had no idea what was going to happen. Now, they didn't know that they were going to stick their hand in a mouse trap, right? I almost thought one rat trap. It's like this big. But I was like, it would be David and he would lose a finger and then it would be terrible, right? But when we do things for God, a lot of times we have no idea what's going to happen. And what we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to be in the book of 1 Samuel, in chapter 14. You want to go there? Sometimes when God calls us to do things, it looks impossible. When we look over the horizon and the sun is shining and we can't see forward, but we know whatever God has for us is there and we have to start walking no matter what's there. Guys, that takes faith. That takes something within us that is beyond us. That takes something within us that only comes from the Holy Spirit. And this account we're going to read tonight is about Jonathan, who's the son of the king. And man, this amazing account, right? Israel has been fighting the Philistines on and off. And Saul, right before this, has just gone against God once again. Saul was supposed to wait for Samuel the prophet to come and to come out and to bless what was going to happen, to give them the word of the Lord. But Samuel got impatient with what was going to happen. And because of that, Saul went ahead and sacrificed on the behalf of the priest, which you're not supposed to do. And right when he did this, Samuel walked up and said, "What have you done?" He said, "Well, you weren't here, and I needed to make this happen." He said, "That was not your place to make that choice. You should have waited. And because of this, you're not going to be successful as a king, and your kingdom is going to fall apart. Your family is done being rulers," is what Samuel said. And it's wild to think about. All he did was sacrifice an animal. Like you could say, God, he was doing something good. He was doing something in honor of you. He was wanting to get your approval. Why are you not just blessing him? Why did he have to go through all of these rules and regulations to make this happen? Well, because God has a way to do things right, and God has a way to do things wrong. If you don't do what God says all the way through from beginning to end, you know what that makes it? Wrong. Right? It would be like getting a clean glass of water and dropping one drop of poison in it. You're like, whoa, 99.9% of that is good. What are you whining about? It's just one little drop of poison. But what did the one little drop of poison do? It ruined the entire glass, right? Saul, even with good intentions, was doing wrong. It didn't matter the intentions if he wasn't willing to obey. So what do we see? We see Jonathan and his armor bearer at the beginning of chapter 14. And they're there, right? They're ready to go fight. Let's read this. Verse 14. Starting in verse 1. One day, Jonathan, the son of Saul, said to the young man who carried his armor, "Come, let's go over to the Philistine garrison on the other side." But he did not tell his father. Saul was staying on the outskirts of Gibeah in the pomegranate cave at Migron. The people who were over there were about 600 men, including Ahijah, the son of Ahitub, Ichabod's brother, son of Phinehas, son of Eli, the priest of the Lord in Shiloh, wearing an ephod. And the people did not know that Jonathan had gone. Within the passes by which Jonathan sought to go over the Philistine garrison, there were a rocky crag on one side and a rocky crag on the other side. The name of the one was Bozez, and the name of the other was Sanah. One crag rose up on the north, on the front of Michmash, awesome name, and the other from the south in front of Geba. Now, why all of these things? It's so we can get a picture of what's going on. What we're seeing is the terrain is incredibly difficult. We're talking a cliff, we're talking walls, jagged edges, rocks. If you ever go to Israel, I've never been there, but Theo and Sarah there, and Thomas and Cameron there right now, and they brought back rocks for me last time. It's a lot of shale, it's a lot of broken rock everywhere you go. So imagine fighting and sliding around and trying to climb up hills that are just broken rocks everywhere you go. This is what we are seeing here with Jonathan and his armor bearer. Two guys going off to fight alone. Now, they brought up some words here, all right? Who is Jonathan? Jonathan, of course, is the king's son, all right? He's the next in line, even though now he knows you're not going to be king. The line has ended. He was the best friend of David. If you go back and read through Samuel, when David was coming up, they were best friends. They were as close as brothers. He was a mighty warrior. This guy was bad news, man. He was awesome. He fought alongside the king. He was one of the bravest guys there. He was a leader of the company. People looked at him. People followed him and everything that he did. All right, the armor bearer. What is an armor bearer? All right, does anyone know what an armor bearer is? Anybody? Bryce, what's an armor bearer? Yeah, so the armor bearers are incredibly brave guys. All right, because to be an armor bearer, what you're willing to do is put away your sword and carry someone else's shield and weaponry for them. Like, dude, that sounds like a bad job. Who wants that job? These guys, it was a very honorable position to be picked, to be an armor bearer. So what he did is he would carry the shield, he would carry the weaponry of Jonathan wherever he went. All right? He carried it everywhere. He would protect Jonathan, even putting his own life at stake, no matter what was facing him. So if it was Jonathan's going to take an arrow or I'm going to take an arrow, I'm jumping in front because I am protecting Jonathan. That was the job of the armor bearer. So he says, let's go to the garrison. What is a garrison? Does anyone know what a garrison is? History people. Anybody? Grant? Yeah, it's essentially a base or a fort, right? It's where the enemy was camping, right? So it's where all of the troops were. Some were sleeping during the day, some were sleeping at night. They always had guards, they were always set up. But this is essentially where the base was of the Philistines. He said, hey, let's go over there. Now, why? Why would Jonathan decide, let's go over there? There is no logical reason for that. If you read right before this, really interesting, in the beginning of, at the end of chapter 13, Israel was actually behind in technology, behind the Philistines. The Philistines had figured out how to work with iron, and the Israelites had not yet. So what the Israelites did is any captives that they had, they would make weaponry for them, sharpen their swords, make shields, do everything for them because they did not know how to do the process. So right before this, what we find out is that no one in the Israelite army, all 600 people except the king and Jonathan, have swords. All they have are sharpened farm tools. That's what they're fighting with right here. So Jonathan says, hey, let's go over and let's pick this fight. Why? You got to imagine this guy saying in his mind, don't you think we need more help? We're going to their home base, and there's 2 of us, and they have weapons, and only one of us does. I have a farm tool, essentially. You have a sword, because you're the prince. I have a farm tool. And we're going to sneak up on them, and who knows what we're going to see when we get to the top of that cliff. Then the last question you got to imagine is, are you crazy? Because why would you do that? It's almost walking into suicide. The odds are absolutely against them in this situation. There's no logical reason. They're not going to gain any ground by doing it. There's no way they can defeat all the Philistines. There's no possible chance that when they get to the top, those 2 guys are going to go in and do anything except die. That's what we're seeing here. Now, Philistines. Anyone know a famous Philistine in the Bible? Goliath. These guys are war-mongering, violent people. We're not talking the little guys that you're picking on. These are the giant people. These are the warriors. These guys are skilled at fighting. This is what they live to do, is to destroy other people. That's who the Philistines are. Remember, better weaponry. Nothing to lose. Evil, wicked, violent. Better at doing all of that. Jonathan says, let's go. Why? We're asking this question. It seems absolutely crazy, right? Absolutely crazy that this would even happen. Now, are there times in our life, let's just think about our lives. Are there times in your life when you feel like you are going against the odds?
Yes.
When you feel outnumbered?
Yes.
Right? Hopefully you do. If you don't, it's probably because you're not standing up to anything. But if you ever feel that way, like if you walk into school, right, you've just come back from summer, you got that camp high still, or it's a fall retreat, and you've come back, or the Lord just spoke to you, and you're excited, and you walk into school and you see everybody, what are those feelings? There's no way I can do this by myself. Right? You ever have that feeling? Mm-hmm. Where you're excited, you want to do something for the Lord, but then you go in there and you're like, I don't know where to start. This is way too big. There's 900 people here. There's one of me. Right? Or it could be your family. You walk into your family Christmas or your family Thanksgiving, and this is going to be the year that you finally get to share the gospel with somebody. You've been praying for them, that family member, that mom, that dad, that brother, that sister, the cousin, whatever, and you walk in, and there's the chaos, and people are wanting to open presents, and there's the food, and everything's going crazy, and you think, man, this is absolutely bigger than me. There's no way I can do this. It's impossible that we could even want to do this. You look at your friend group, right? I've been friends with them for so long. They know everything about me. It seems impossible that I could come in here and change what I've been living and convince them that it's actually real. Mm. It's against all odds that would even happen It may be your neighborhood, your neighbors that you've been praying for. You've been trying to start a conversation, but every time you try to start a conversation, something comes up and it just distracts. Yeah, it's not the right time. I just feel like, man, if God would just send a meteor with a cross on there in their front yard and we can talk about how cool that would really be great, because without that happening, this is just, it's impossible to make this happen. You're right. It is impossible for you to do those things. You can't walk into school and change the school on your own power. You can't do it. You can't change your family. You can't change your friends. You can't change your neighbors. You can't change your team. You can't change your club. Nothing. But what do we see that Jonathan has? Has Jonathan given up his faith like his father has? We never see any evidence of that. We never see any evidence leading up to this that Jonathan gave up on who God is. Because here's what it says. Jonathan said to the young man who carried his armor, "Come, let's go to the garrison of these uncircumcised." That means these wicked people. It may be that the Lord will work for us. Now, he doesn't know if the Lord's going to work for him. He's taking this giant step of faith of let's go see what's going to happen. For nothing can hinder the Lord from saving by many or by few. Catch that. Nothing can hinder the Lord. There only may be two of us. And we're not strong enough. But us and God can defeat everybody. Because God is bigger. Right. Look at the faith that's there. You're on uneven ground. Walking uphill. Going against the fort of the enemy. You're saying, let's go see what God can do. Let's go see if God's going to do something. Now, if you're the armor bearer, what's your response to this? Now, we want to say, dude, I'm with him. Yeah, no, you're not. Stop it. We would all be scared. We would all be scared. Here's how we know. Our schools still have lost people there. Right. Our jobs still have lost people there. Our families still have lost people in them. All of us are scared to walk strongly in faith sometimes. And that's okay to admit. Because we're all there. Here's what the armor bearer says. Do all that is in your heart. Do as you wish. Do as you wish. Behold, I am with you, heart and soul. Here's what he says. Where you go, Jonathan, I'm going with you. It's a bold statement, right? Where you go, I'm going to go. And if you're going to go fight, I'm going to go fight with you. What kind of influence is that Jonathan has? Look at the influence there. He is, by all counts of logic, leading this man into death. And this guy goes, Jonathan, let's go. Let's go fight. Then Jonathan said, behold, we will cross over to the men, and we will show ourselves. If they say, wait until we come to you, then we will stand still in our place, and we will not go to them. But if they say, come up to us, then we will go up, for the Lord has given them into our hands, and this shall be a sign to us. Bad plan. I'm just being honest. Terrible plan. If they say, hey, wait there, then we'll wait here for them. But if they say, come on up, we're going to walk it up, and that means that God's going to do something amazing. You ever had that feeling? I never have. I never have. I've never really put God to the test to that, right? Imagine walking into your school tomorrow and be like, all right, God, if I walk in and there's a service dog walking down the hallway and I see him and he looks at me and licks his left eye, then I know it's a sign from you that I'm supposed to do something great today. That's essentially what we're seeing here, right? Like they're just saying, if God does this, then we're all in. We're going for it. Craziness. Look at verse 11. So they showed themselves to the garrison of the Philistines. And the Philistines said, look, Hebrew Hebrews are coming out of the holes where they had hidden themselves. That's, by the way, an insult. They're hiding scared. And the men of the garrison hailed Jonathan and his armor bearer and said, "Come on up, and we'll show you a thing." We got the challenge. Come on over. Let us teach you a lesson. Teach you to come to our area where you don't belong. Now, Jonathan could have said, or the armor bearer could have said at that time, "All right, there's one side. Let's make up another one really quick to see if God's really serious about this." That's what we want to do. We want to make sure that could be a coincidence. That was 50-50. They're going to say yes or no. All right? So let's do this. If the lead Philistine starts walking with his left foot forward, then we know it's true. They could have made all these rules. That's what we do, right? Okay, God, the dog licked his left eye. But dogs lick their face all the time. If there's a cat riding on its back, then I know it's from God. All right? And then there's a cat riding on its back. So okay. Coincidence. Circus is in town. If a mouse parachutes from the ceiling and lands on the cat and puts a saddle on him and rides both of the cat and the dog, then we know it's from God. Right? And we start making up these ridiculous qualifications for it to actually be God working in our life. Instead of just being convinced that God wants us to do something. We make up all of these, okay, this has to happen, and then this has to happen, they gotta make sure this happens, and I gotta do it in this order, and then I'll know maybe that it's God working. But that's not what we see. What we see is, if they say come over, we go over and God's gonna destroy them. So what do? They come over and they say, "Hey, come on up here, let us teach you a lesson." And Jonathan said to his armor bearer, "Come up after me, for the Lord has given them into our hands." There's some major faith in there. Jonathan climbed up on his hands and his feet, and the armor bearer after him, and they fell before Jonathan, and his armor bearer killed them after him. So here's what's happening. They go full sprint. Jonathan comes in with sword, starts cutting them down, which doesn't kill them. They fall to the ground. Armor bearer stabs them, and they keep going, person by person by person by person, and they don't stop because God had a plan and a purpose for what they're going to do. Now, let's go back to us. If we're there, what are we doing? All right, we're going to run over. We're like, all right. We do like the trot over. We're going to trot over, right? Just to make sure they're being serious. No, man. They're full sprint running. Jonathan cuts, fall to the ground, stab, cut, and they've just got this system going supernaturally above all of their skill. We just see people falling left and right and left and right and left and right. As if God had something in mind, right? Why are we surprised to see this? God said, make it so. There is no fear in their life because they know that this was the plan of God. If it's the plan of God, we have nothing to worry about. But look what happens. At the first strike, which Jonathan and his armor bearer made, they killed about 20 men within half of a furrow's length in an acre of land. 20 guys against 2. They killed 20. And there was a panic in the camp. So the other Philistines are going, what in the world happened? We just saw 20 guys die by 2 guys. Who are these people? What is happening? So there's a panic, right? There's a panic in the camp and in the field and among all the people. The garrison and even the raiders trembled. The best warriors that they had trembled. The earth quaked and it became a very great panic. What we see is absolute chaos in the enemy's camp by the faith of 2 people. The enemy was shaken because of 2 guys. But not just that. And the watchmen of Saul and Gilead, Benjamin, looked, and behold, the multitude was dispersing here and there. Then Saul said to the people who were there, count and see who has gone from us. And then when he counted Behold, Jonathan and his armor bearer were not there. So Saul said to Ahijah, bring the ark of God here, for the ark of God went at the time with the people of Israel. Now, as Saul was talking to the priest, the tumult in the camp of the Philistines increased more and more. So Saul said to the priest, withdraw your hand. Then Saul and all the people who were with him rallied and went into battle. Here's what we're seeing. Two guys go do something amazing because God leads them there. The enemy is shaken. Word's gotten back to their camp. Now everyone's like, let's go do something great and follow these guys into battle. But we keep going, right? Then Saul and all the people who were with him rallied and went to battle. Behold, every Philistine sword was against this fellow, and there was great confusion. So now the Philistines are so confused and in such shock, they start killing each other. The enemy is destroying itself in its own camp. All right? Now the Hebrews, who had been there with the Philistines before that time and who had gone up to be with them in camp, the traders who had gone up there, the traders who had left Israel to go fight for the Philistines who had given up, right? They see what's happening. And even they turned to be with the Israelites who were with Saul and Jonathan. Likewise, when all of the men of Israel who had hidden themselves in the hill country of Ephraim heard that the Philistines were fleeing, they too followed hard and after them in battle. So the Lord saved Israel that day, and the battle passed beyond Beth-Aven. Here's what we see. Two guys, they go be faithful, shook the enemy, rallied the troops to come follow them, convinced the traitors to come back. And the enemy is destroying itself at the same time because of the faith of two guys who said, we're all in, let's go. Mm-hmm. That's what we're seeing, right? This is impossible odds. We talked about where do we see impossible odds? At our school, at our home, at our team, our club, our friends, our neighborhood. Right? All of this stuff. What happens when they go all in? Everything changes. Everything changes. Culture changed. Their influence changed the hearts of those who weren't willing to come. Their willingness to follow God made those who were turned away to come back. And it shook the enemy so much, the enemy ended up destroying itself. This is what we're seeing by two guys who decided no matter what, we are going to follow God. The tide of culture changed. So when you walk into your school, or you walk into your family, you walk into your team, you go, this is too big for me. Yes, it is, but it's not too big for God.
Right.
The 1,000 people who are at your school, you can't reach all of them. But who knows what happens if you say, I'm all in. And then one person sees you, and another person sees them, and another couple people see them. And then by the time at the end of the week comes, or the month, now there's 12 or 15 or 20 of you. And then by the next month, there's 40 or 50. And then who knows what happens when everyone just decides, you know what? God's doing something here. Let's go to battle together. Don't think it's impossible to change the culture of your school or your home or your team. You don't have to settle to walk into evil every day. If you're willing to follow God, God will do amazing things with you. But the half in, half out, I'm going to be a Christian on this day and not on this day, will not work. The reason that Jonathan and his armor bearer were successful is because they full sprinted in the battle and they never looked back.
That's right.
Think about this question. What did the heart of the armor bearer look like to be willing to follow Jonathan wherever he went? Does your heart match in following God wherever he takes you? Or are you questioning God, asking for another sign and another sign and another sign and another sign? The armor bearer never asked questions. He said, where you go, I'll go. Where you fight, I'm going to fight. If that means we die doing it, then guess what? We die doing it. But we're going to full sprint into battle. And I'm right behind you. You knock him down, and I'm right there to clean up. This is an epic movie story. But the heart of it is, he was willing to go everywhere because of the faith that he had in his leader. So how do we apply this, right? We talked about school, home, family, all this kind of stuff. I want you to understand this. If you don't hear anything, hear this. You're not good enough to fight alone.
Right.
You're not. You will fail every time fighting by yourself. But God is bigger than any enemy that stands in your path.
That's good.
And he wants you to come along with him. Think about that. He wants you to help him change the world.
Hmm.
He wants you to help him change your school. He wants you to help him change your family. He wants you to help him change your team. This is amazing. The God of the universe, right? Who can do anything? Says, Grant, just come with me. Let's go up the mountain. That's nuts, right? Because if he says, hey, Matt Paradis, come with me, you're like, dude, I don't even run at home. Like, I got a treadmill that's holding more laundry than I've ran on it. Right? That's true.
It's true.
Like, me and exercise, we're not even talking. We're not even cordial. You want me to go into battle with you? Are you insane, God? Show me the dog with the cat with the parachuting mouse on it, then I'll go. Right? That's what we want to do. But God says, no. Let's go. Jacob, let's go. Let's go fight. Ben, let's go fight. Jaden, let's go fight. And God just wants us to say, where you go, I'll go. And I don't even care the consequences. I'm full sprint right into battle, knowing we can't lose. You can't lose with God. Love it. Guys, being all in, all out. You've got to start making choices now. Life is not going to get easier. Life's going to get harder. You're going to have harder choices, harder decisions. And if you make that choice now, guess I will follow you wherever. Guess what? Those choices are going to be easier to make when you get there. All in or all out. You got to make that choice. Let's pray. God, as we end tonight, we thank you for who you are. We are thankful, God, that we get to read this incredible, epic story of something that actually happened. Let's give it credit, man. These were two real guys who were willing to follow you to the ends. And God, you blessed that. And they got to the top of the hill and they saw what was facing them. But they knew in their heart they could not lose with God on their side. God, I pray for every student and every leader in here that when we wake up in the morning, we open our eyes, when we take that first conscious breath, when we exhale, we open our eyes and say, God, I'm all in. I don't even know what today holds. I don't know what I'm going to face. I don't know what I'm going to feel. But I know with you is better than without you. God, give us the courage to say where you go, I'll go. Give us the faith to sprint into battle. Give us the ability to fight when we don't feel like fighting. Keep us diligent in what we do. Faithful to the Savior that gave us so much grace. We pray this in your name. Amen.